In the cold silence of space, an alien cry for help echoed across the stars, desperate, hopeless. Many civilizations ignored it, but one species listened: the humans, the Deathworlders. Known for surviving the harshest worlds, they were feared as much as respected. When they heard the SOS, they didn't send diplomats. The old wooden bench in the park was still there. It stood under the big oak tree, just like always. Its paint had faded, and one of the arms had a deep crack now. But to Aiden, it looked the same. He sat down slowly, clutching his hands together. The wind was soft. The birds chirped in the distance. Children were playing on the swings nearby. But Aiden didn't smile. He looked at the spot next to him. The spot where Emma used to sit. Emma had moved away 3 months ago. They had grown up together on this street. Every day after school, they would sit on this bench and talk about everything: books, dreams, silly jokes, and big ideas. Aiden remembered how Emma always brought snacks, how she laughed at his bad drawing skills, and how she once said, "We'll always be close, even if we're far apart." But now she was far, really far. She had moved to another city with her family hundreds of miles away. At first they messaged every day, then every other day, then once a week. Now, it had been almost 3 weeks since Aiden last heard from. Heard it made his chest feel heavy. He didn't want to be angry. He didn't want to feel hurt. But still, every day he walked past this bench. It felt like something inside him was missing. That evening, he went home and sat at his desk. His room was quiet. The moonlight came in through the window and lit up the stack of books they used. To read together, Aiden opened his drawer and pulled out a small notebook. It was old and full of doodlesome from him, most from Emma. On the very last page, in her handwriting, were the words, "If you ever feel lost, I'm just one message away." Aiden touched the page gently. He had read that line so many times. It was burned into his heart. But now, he didn't know if it was still true. He picked up his phone. His finger hovered over her name, then he put it down again. "What if she's busy?" he whispered. "What if she's moved on?" He sat back and stared at the ceiling. The next day at school, Aiden felt quiet. He barely listened in class. At lunch, he sat alone. His friend Maya came over. "You okay?" she asked. Aiden gave a small nod. "Yeah." She sat beside him. "You miss her, huh?" He looked up, surprised. "How'd you know? You always walk by the bench?" She said with a small smile. "And you don't draw in your notebook anymore." Aiden looked down. "I want to talk to her. I just don't know how." Maya nodded. "Sometimes you don't need a reason to reach out. Just say hi. Just remind her you're still there." "What if she doesn't answer?" Aiden asked. "Then you'll still know you tried." That night, Aiden sat on the floor of his room with the notebook in his lap. He remembered all the things they used to dream about: starting a comic together, exploring new cities, building a tree house where they could hang out and read. He smiled a little. Then he picked up his phone. This time, he didn't hesitate. He wrote, "Hey Emma, I saw our bench today. It still looks the same. Hope you're okay. I miss our talks. Just wanted to say hi." He stared at the message for a few seconds, and then hit send. His heart pounded. Seconds passed, and minutes. Then an hour. Nothing. He sighed and placed the phone on the nightstand. But deep inside, something already felt lighter. He had tried. The next morning, as sunlight touched his pillow, his phone buzzed. He opened his eyes, barely awake, and checked. The screen, it was her, Emma had replied. "Aiden, I miss you too. I'm sorry I didn't write. Things got crazy here. I think about you every time I see my sketchbook. Thank you for messaging. I needed it." Aiden sat up, eyes wide. Then another message appeared. "Let's call this weekend. I want to hear everything." His eyes watered just a little, but he smiled. A big, honest smile. For the first time in weeks, the sadness inside him had a name: distance. But now, he also had something stronger: hope. Aiden sat on his bed, staring at the screen of his phone. The soft blue light lit up his face in the dark room. The silence around him felt heavier than usual. Emma had promised to call this weekend. It was Sunday night now, and the call never came. He had waited all day, checking his phone every few minutes. Every time it buzzed, his heart jumped. But it was never her. It was an app notification, or a message from Maya, or a weather alert. But not Emma. The sun had set hours ago. Psst. The stars were out. Still no message. Still no call. He placed the phone down beside him and sighed. Maybe she forgot, he whispered. Maybe she got busy again. Maybe she thought about it, then changed her mind. Maybe she just didn't want to talk anymore. He hated thinking that way, but the thoughts wouldn't stop. They swirled around. In his mind, like cold wind on a winter night, he hugged his pillow tightly and closed his eyes. Monday morning came too fast. Aiden felt tired, not just in his body, but in his heart too. He walked to school slowly, dragging his feet on the sidewalk. The bench by the oak tree was still there. He didn't stop today. At school, Maya noticed right away. "You didn't get the call, huh?" she asked gently. Aiden nodded without looking. At her, "I'm sorry," she said. "Maybe something happened." It's okay," Aiden said quietly. "Maybe I just need to stop hoping." Maya looked at him for a moment, then opened her bag. She pulled out a folded piece of paper and handed it to him. "What's this?" Aiden asked. "Just something I made," she replied. "Open it later." School Aiden sat at his desk and opened the paper. It was a hand-drawn comic, a short one. The art was simple but full of heart. The comic told the story of a little robot who lived alone in a big empty world. Every day the robot waited beside a radio, hoping for a signal. Days turned to weeks. The robot grew sad, but one morning the radio crackled and a message came through. It wasn't a long message, just one word: "Hello." The robot smiled, and it waited again this time, not in sadness, but in hope. At the bottom of the page, Maya had written, "Sometimes even one word is enough to keep going." Aiden felt his throat tighten. He blinked back the tears. Then slowly he picked up his phone again. Still no message from Emma, but this time he didn't feel angry or hopeless. He opened their chat and typed, "Hey, I missed you yesterday. Everything okay?" He didn't wait for a reply. He just sent it. 2 hours later, he got a response. "Aiden, I'm so sorry." Aiden sat up straight. Another message came in. "Something happened with my uncle. He had to go to the hospital. We were driving all weekend. I didn't have signal. I didn't forget, I promise. Felt terrible when I saw your message. I didn't want to let you down. I miss you too." Aiden let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He quickly replied, "I'm glad you're okay. I was just worried. We can talk later when you have time. I'm here." The next few days were quiet. No calls yet, but small messages came through. "A good morning here. I miss you there." It wasn't like before, but it was something. It was enough. Still, Aiden knew things weren't the same. People change. Places change. Even friendships can feel different after time and distance. But one thing hadn't changed. His heart, he still cared, and he still believed that something good could grow from the quiet. That Friday, Maya sat with him on the bench under the oak. "Tree, you look better today," she said. Aiden smiled. "I feel better, still waiting, but it's different now. I'm not just waiting. I'm holding on." Maya nodded. "That's what makes humans special, you know?" Aiden raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Our hearts," she said. "Even when they hurt, they still hope." He thought about that then. He looked up at the sky. The clouds moved slowly. The wind danced through the branches. A single leaf drifted down and landed on the bench beside him. Aiden picked it up and smiled. He didn't know when Emma would call. He didn't know what would happen next. But he knew this. He still believed. Saturday mornings used to feel exciting for Aiden. Before Emma moved away, they always spent weekends doing something fun: bike rides, painting silly pictures, or just sitting on the bench under the big oak tree and talking for hours now. Saturdays felt quiet. He stood near his window, watching the street below. Everything looked the same. The trees, the neighbors, the small bakery on the corner. But nothing felt the same without her. He still hadn't heard her voice, even though Emma had messaged him last week to explain what happened with her uncle. And even though she sent small notes like "thinking of you," Or I miss those days. Aiden couldn't help feeling distant from her. He didn't blame her, but it still hurt. That afternoon, he went to the park and sat on their old bench. His sketchbook was in his lap, but the pencil in his hand didn't move. He remembered how Emma used to draw silly animals in the corners of the pages. A flying dog. A singing snail. A cat with 4 pairs of sunglasses. He smiled at the memory, but the smile didn't stay. Later that day, he opened his notebook and flipped to a blank page. Then, slowly, he began to write. Dear Emma, I don't know if this will ever reach you, but I needed to say it. I miss you. Not just the old Eutha, one who sat with me every day, but the you that I could talk to any time. I know you're busy. I know things change. But sometimes I feel like I'm still here, standing still. And you're flying far away, he paused. The words sat on the page like quiet raindrops. Maybe it's silly. Maybe I should just move on, but I don't want to forget. You were my best friend. And part of me still believes that even though everything feels different, we can still find our way back. He signed the letter and folded it neatly. He didn't send it. He just placed it in the back of his notebook and closed it. The next day at school, Maya noticed his quiet mood again. You okay? She asked. Aiden nodded, but it wasn't honest. Maya tilted her head. Want to talk about it? He hesitated. Then he pulled the letter out of his notebook and handed it to her. She read it slowly when she finished. She looked up with kind eyes. You have a beautiful way of saying things, she said softly. Why don't you send it? 'Cause I'm scared, Aiden admitted. What if it makes her feel awkward? What if I lose whatever small connection we still have? Maya gave a gentle smile. Or what if it brings you closer? That night, Aiden stared at the letter again. Then, instead of messaging it, he opened a new app on his phone, Voice Recorder. He took a breath. Then, speaking softly, he read the letter aloud. He stumbled once or twice, and his voice shook in the middle. But he didn't stop. When he finished, he listened to it. His own voice sounded strange to him, raw, honest, a little shaky, but filled with something real. Hope. He didn't send it right away. He saved the recording and stared at it for a long time. Then, just before midnight, he pressed share and sent it to Emma. The next morning, he didn't check his phone. He helped his dad clean the garage. He took out the trash. He read a chapter from his favorite book. Still, he didn't check. It wasn't until the sun was setting that curiosity got the better of him. His heart beat faster as he picked up the phone. There it was. A reply from Emma. He tapped it with shaking fingers. Aiden, I cried, listening to your message. Another message followed. I didn't realize how much I'd been holding back. Things here have been so busy and loud, I forgot how quiet it gets when I don't hear your voice. Then came a third message, a short one. Can I call you now? Aiden's eyes filled with tears. He pressed call for the first time in months. He heard her voice again. Hey, she said softly. Hey, he replied, his voice warm. There was a long silence, but it wasn't awkward. It was full. I'm sorry I made you feel alone, she said. I'm just glad you're still here, Aiden replied. They talked for over an hour about everything and nothing. She told him about her new school. He told her about Maya. They laughed. They remembered old jokes. They promised to talk again soon. When the call ended, Aiden felt lighter than he had in a long time. Later that night, he took out his sketchbook again. He flipped to a fresh page and started drawing. A little robot and a radio. This time, the robot wasn't waiting alone. Someone else was sitting beside it, smiling. Asterisk Aiden sat at his kitchen table, staring at the small chocolate cupcake in front of him. A single candle stood in the center. It wasn't fancy. It made it himself from a box mix that didn't rise properly. The top was a little flat, and the frosting was uneven. It was his birthday. He should have felt happy, but instead he just felt alone. His parents were working late. Maya had already dropped off a handmade card at school, and a few classmates had sent quick birthday messages. But there was one message he kept checking for. One that still hadn't come. Emma, she had. Called him last week, and it had been amazing. Her voice, her laugh, the way she said his name, it felt like they had found each other again, even for just a moment. But since then, things had gone quiet again. He told himself not to expect anything. People were busy. Life moved fast. Maybe. She didn't even remember what day it was. But deep down, he hoped. He always hoped. He looked at the cupcake again. Candle hadn't been lit yet. Suddenly, phone buzzed. Aiden's heart jumped. It wasn't her, just another game app notification. Closed his eyes and let out a slow breath. Then quietly he whispered, "Happy birthday, Aiden." He picked up a lighter from the kitchen drawer, lit the candle, and watched the flame flicker. There was no singing, no clapping, just silence. He made a wish, even though it felt a little childish. I wish I could feel close to her again. Blew out the candle. Later that night, he opened his notebook again. The pages were filled with more drawings now. After the last call with Emma, he had started sketching again small pictures of robots. Stars and trees with glowing leaves. He flipped to a clean page and began writing, "I'm not mad. Just a little hurt. I thought maybe today would be the day you remembered. But maybe it slipped your mind. Or maybe it hurts you too much to try again. Still, I miss you. And even if you don't remember today, I'll remember for both of us." Folded the note and placed it behind the others. His unsent letters were growing. The next morning at school, Maya met him at the gate. "Hey, how was your birthday?" she asked brightly. "It was okay," Aiden said with a small smile. "Did Emma call?" Aiden shook his head. Maya looked sad. "I'm sorry. It's not her fault," he said. "She probably had something going on. Or maybe it's just different now. Does it still matter to you?" Maya asked. Aiden thought for a moment. Then he nodded. "Yes, a lot." "Then don't give up," she said. "People forget sometimes, but feelings don't always fade. Sometimes they're just quiet for a while." That evening, Aiden went to the park again. The bench under the oak tree was cold, but he didn't mind. He liked the sound of the wind. Through the leaves, it reminded him of the soft silence before she used to speak. He reached into his bag and pulled out something new. An envelope inside it was a printed photo from last year's birthday. Emma was holding a balloon, and he had cake on his face. They were both laughing. He smiled at the memory then, slowly. He wrote her name on the envelope. He didn't know her new home address, so he just stared at it. Then an idea hit him. He pulled out his phone and opened the voice recorder again. This time, he didn't read a letter. He just spoke. "Hey, Emma, I know we haven't talked much lately. Yesterday was my birthday.
I like that.
I made a cupcake, well, kind of a lopsided one, and I sat there hoping to hear from you. You didn't message, and that's okay. I just wanted to say I still think about you. I still remember all our small memories. And even if we don't talk often, you're still my friend. That doesn't change." He paused, then added, "Hope you're doing okay." He pressed send and sat back. The reply didn't come right away, but the next morning, just as he was about to leave for school, his phone buzzed. It was a voice message. He sat on the stairs and pressed play. Emma's voice was soft and shaky. "Aiden, I'm so sorry. I didn't forget your birthday. I had a plan. I made a small card and was going to send it. But I got scared. I don't know why. Maybe I felt guilty. Or maybe I was afraid you didn't care anymore." She paused, and he could hear her take a breath. "Hearing your message, it reminded me of who we were and who we still could be. Happy late birthday. I still care. More than you know." Aiden sat there for a long moment, phone in hand, tears in his eyes, but smiling. That day, everything felt a little brighter. The trees looked taller. The wind felt warmer. And when Maya asked how he was doing, he simply said better, because even though she had forgotten the day, she hadn't forgotten him. The days were getting colder. Leaves fell from the trees like soft whispers. The park bench was covered in yellow and orange now, and the air smelled like rain and change. Aiden sat with his hands in his pockets, watching the wind blow across the empty playground. He hadn't spoken to Emma in over a week, not because he didn't want to, but because neither of them had reached out. After the voice messages, things had gone quiet again. A few short texts. Thinking of you here, eh? Busy day there. Nothing more. He still smiled when he saw her name light up on his phone. But deep inside, he wondered if that old connection, the one that felt strong and simple, was slowly fading. He didn't want it to. He still missed her every day. Back home, he pulled open the drawer where he kept his letters. So many unsent pages. Notes he had written, but never shared. Words he wanted to say, but always held back. He flipped through them. Some were happy, filled with memories. Others were heavy with sadness. Some had doodles. Some had tear stains. He stared at them and thought, maybe it's time I try something different. So he picked up a clean page and began to write not a message to Emma, but something else. He titled it, The Day I Almost Let Go. He wrote about the first week after Emma left. The silence. The confusion. The empty bench. He wrote about how he had waited for her messages like someone waiting for stars on a cloudy night. He wrote about how Maya helped him smile again. How even. A simple comic gave him the strength to keep hoping. He wrote about the cupcake birthday, about the message he sent. And the one he got back? He didn't try to sound perfect. He didn't try to be poetic. He just told the truth. When he finished, he signed the page with his name. Then he put the letter in an envelope. This time he didn't keep it. At school, the next day, he found Maya at her locker. Can you do me a favor? He asked. Maya looked up. Of course. He handed her the envelope. Can you mail this to Emma for me? I finally found her address online last night. Her family's house. I want her to read this, even if nothing comes of it. Maya looked at the letter, then at him. I'll send it after school, she promised. Thanks, Aiden, said softly. I just needed to do something. The week passed slowly. Every day, Aiden checked his messages after school. Nothing. He didn't give up hope. But he also didn't expect anything. He focused on his schoolwork, helped his mom cook dinner, and even started a new drawing, a scene of 2 paper boats floating across. A river under a starry sky. He tried not to count the days, but still. He hoped then, one cloudy Thursday afternoon. Aiden opened his locker and something fell out, a small envelope. There was no name on the front. He picked it up and opened it carefully. Inside was a folded letter, written in familiar handwriting. Emma's, he read it slowly. Dear Aiden, I got your letter. I read it twice. Then once more with my mom, I cried. Not because it was sad, but because it was real. You always had a way with words, even when you didn't think you did. I know I haven't been great at staying close. Sometimes I feel like I'm on another planet. But your letter reminded me that even if we're far, we're not gone. Thank you for not giving up on me. I hope you still draw. Hope you still sit at the bench sometimes. I hope we talk again soon. With all my heart, Emma Aiden stood there in the hallway, the letter pressed to his chest. The bell rang. Kids rushed past him, but he didn't move. He just stood still and smiled. That weekend, went back to the park. The bench was still there. The leaves had piled up around it now, soft and golden. The air was cool, but not cold. He sat down, pulled out his sketchbook, and began to draw. Not a robot this time, but 2 friends, sitting on a bench under falling leaves. One held a letter, the other smiled. Sometimes the wind carried sounds from the city, cars, voices, music from a passing bike, but Aiden heard something else in the quiet hope, the kind that doesn't shout, the kind that whispers. You're still connected, just in a different way, and for now, that was enough. Asterisk, it was almost. Winter now. The park trees had lost most of their leaves, and the wind had grown sharper. People walked faster, hurrying to get home before the evening chill. The bench under the oak tree still stood strong, though now covered in frost most mornings. Aiden sat there again, bundled in his coat and scarf, watching the clouds drift by. It had been 2 weeks since he received Emma's letter. They'd sent a few short messages since then, but nothing like before. No calls, no long talks, just small words enough to show they still cared, but not enough to feel truly close. Aiden didn't know how to fix it. He didn't want to push her. He didn't want to sound needy. But part of him still felt the quiet ache of distance. It's like a long hallway with no end. He pulled out his notebook again and turned to a new page. But this time, didn't draw. He just stared at the paper. That night at home, he sat by the window and watched the city lights flicker in the distance. Maya texted him, "You okay?" He replied, "Just thinking." A few moments later, she sent, "Sometimes thinking too much is just another way of saying, I miss someone." Aiden stared at that message for a while. Then he typed, "I do. I miss her, even though she's still there." "Maybe she misses you too, but doesn't know how to say it," Maya answered. "Then maybe we're both lost," Aiden wrote. "Or maybe you're both just walking slowly toward each other." Next day at school, Aiden decided to do something small. He wrote a simple note. Just a few lines. "I hope today was a little lighter than yesterday. Thinking of you, eh?" He took a photo of the note and sent it to Emma with a message. No pressure to reply. Just wanted to say this. Then he left his phone in his bag and went to class. That afternoon, as he walked home under a gray sky, his phone buzzed. Emma had replied, "Thank you. That made my day better. I've been feeling strange lately, like I'm surrounded by people, but still far from everything I care about. Your words helped. They always do." Then a second message. "I still have your letter. In my drawer. I read it when I need to remember that someone out there still sees me." Aiden stopped walking. He looked up at the sky and smiled, even if they were apart. Even if things weren't the same, they still saw each other. And maybe that was enough for now, that weekend. Maya invited Aiden to a small school art event. He brought a few of his drawings in a folder, unsure if anyone would care. When he arrived, Maya smiled brightly. "Come on, you're going to set these out on the table." He hesitated. "What if no one likes them?" Maya shrugged. "That's not the point. You made them. You felt something. That's what matters." So he laid them out, his robots, stars, benches, boats, letters, and more. Each one held a quiet piece of his story. People walked by and nodded. Some smiled. A few asked questions. One younger kid pointed at a picture of two friends under a glowing tree and said, "That one makes me feel warm." Aiden felt something shift in his heart. He still missed Emma, but maybe he was growing. Two, not moving on, just moving forward. That evening, as he walked home with the cold wind brushing his face, he recorded a voice message. "Hey, Emma. I went to an art event today. Shared some drawings. A kid liked one about two friends sitting together. Said it made him feel warm, I guess. I just wanted you to know that even when things feel far, parts of us still shine through. Your laughter still echoes when I draw silly things. Your voice still whispers when I look at the sky. Just wanted you to know you're still here even when you're not." He sent it without waiting, then tucked his hands into his coat and kept walking. Later that night, her reply came. A voice message. To her voice was soft. "A little tired, but real. You always say things I didn't know I needed to hear. I've been scared, Aiden. Scared that too much time has passed. That I've changed too much. That maybe we won't fit anymore. But you remind me that distance doesn't erase love. Thank you for holding on when I couldn't. I'll try harder, because I miss you too. I want to feel close again." Aiden sat in the dark, holding the phone to his heart. Outside the window, snow began to fall. But inside, he felt warm. The snow had stopped falling by morning. Everything outside looked like it had been painted white overnight. The trees stood tall and still, their branches coated in frost. The park was quiet, the bench under the oak tree dusted with fresh snow. Aiden stood by his window, holding a mug of warm tea in his hands. It had been almost 3 months since Emma moved away, and for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel completely sad. He still missed her, of course. That hadn't changed, but something was different now. They were talking again, not every day, but enough. Short messages, voice notes, pictures of things that reminded them of each other. Emma had even sent him a drawing last week, a small sketch, of their old bench with 2 stick figures sitting side by side. At the top, she had written, "Some distances aren't so far after all." Aiden smiled at the memory. That afternoon, while he was reading on the couch, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Emma. "Hey, are you home?" He blinked. That was an odd question. He quickly replied, "Yeah." "Why?" There was no answer. Just 3 dots blinking. And then, "Can you come to the park?" The bench. Aiden's heart skipped. He sat up quickly, pulled on his jacket, and slipped into his boots. Was it really happening? The walk to the park felt longer than usual. His hands were stuffed in his pockets. His breath made little clouds in the cold air. His thoughts spun with questions. Was she visiting for the weekend? Why hadn't she told him before? Would it be weird? Would it feel the same? When he turned the corner and saw the bench in the distance, he stopped walking. Someone was standing there, wearing a purple coat, hands in their pockets, dark hair tied back in a simple braid. Emma, she turned around as he approached, her eyes wide with a nervous smile. "Hey," she said. It's almost like a whisper. Aiden stopped just a few feet away, his voice caught in his throat. But he managed to say, "You're really here?" Emma nodded. "We came to visit my aunt," I asked. "If we could stop here for a little while." They both looked at the bench, and then slowly walked over and sat down. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The cold air wrapped around them, but neither moved to leave. I was scared, Emma finally said, "to come back, to see this place again." Aiden looked at her. "Why?" "Because I didn't know if it would feel the same," she replied, "or if you'd still want me here." Aiden shook his head gently. "I never stopped wanting you." Here she smiled, eyes glistening. "I thought about this bench almost every day," she said. "Even when I couldn't talk to you. Even when I didn't know what to say. I thought about it too." Aiden said softly, "It always reminded me of you." She turned toward him. "You kept sending messages. You never gave up." "Almost did," Aiden admitted. "But something inside me said, wait." Emma nodded. "That's what makes you amazing." He chuckled. "I'm not amazing. You are," she said, "'cause you believed in us when I forgot how." Looked up at the bare branches above them, then back at her. "I don't know what happens next," he said honestly. Emma nodded. "Me neither. But I want us to keep talking," he continued. "Even if it's not every day? Even if we're still far apart?" "Me too," she said. They sat quietly again. But this time, it was peaceful. Not full of worry. Not full of doubt, just stillness and understanding. Emma reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small folded paper. "I made this for you." He opened it carefully. It was another drawing. 2 paper boats on a river, just like one of his old sketches. This time, they were connected by a string that glowed like starlight. Under it, she had written, "Still sailing side by side." Aiden looked at her, eyes wide. "You remember that one?" "I never forgot," she said. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, they stood up. Emma turned to him. "I have to go soon, but I'm really glad I came." "Me too," he said. She hesitated for a second, then stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. He hugged her back. Not tightly, not desperately, just enough when they pulled apart. There was no sadness, just something soft and warm between them. Later that night, Aiden sat in his room. The folded drawing sat beside him on the desk. He opened his notebook and began to write not a letter, not a poem, just thoughts. "Today, I saw Emma again. We didn't fix everything, but we didn't have to. Sometimes showing up is enough. Sometimes sitting quietly beside someone says more than 1,000 words. We're still far, but now it doesn't feel like we're drifting. We're just sailing, side by side." He closed the notebook and smiled.